do some setup for unthinkment.com, ENTHINKMENT.com. This is David Boje, and it's, I was reading in Tom Lemke's book again, and it says, "Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me?" Well, I want to tell you the story a little bit about a steel company, a foundry, and Wayne Alderson got shot in the head during the service, and when I met him, he had a dent in his head. I met him with Ann Rosile. Uncle Nunzio from Pittsburgh took us there, and we saw more CEOs of more major companies than you can ever imagine. And they were all there to hear the story called Value of the Person. Now, to set that up in Unthinkment, since we're going to dive deep into kind of meaning and words, Gurudev Shikshabanaji has a bunch of passages on going beyond and being with. And beyond, going into that space between. So in the Alderson story, there's that space between the unions and the management, a very divide and conquer strategy on the part of the company. Wayne went in there, changed it all, said, "Hey, why don't we talk together, do some together listening, as Ann and I call it, some together telling, and see if we can find out some common ground here." So they swept out, cleaned out the ashes of a pit where the ashes drained when they melt the materials for the steel. And they called it the chapel. And they held hands and they prayed and they fought and they shared and they got beyond their individual selves and their individual egos and all that good stuff. And they reached a new level of awareness that I call beyond. And it is going beyond the five senses like we covered in the third eye. And it's going beyond our ways of thinking that we get socialized, schooled into ways of thinking. So in Thinkment, we call it in-thinking, ENTHINKING. And this is about today spirituality, your divinity. If you're a Christian, you take the seed of Christ and you accept the seed called Jesus, and you have a divinity. If you're Jainism, like myself, you have an inner divinity, and you cultivate that through reincarnation and getting rid of all that karma stuff. Now we can look beyond the confines of family, country, religion, politics, nationality, whatever it is, and we can work on finding that space between us. And we refuse to relate to the beyond, relate beyond the bonds of family, nationality, ethnicity, you name it, then we can't be brother and sister with our fellow humans. And when we relate beyond the echo chambers that we're all in, that mold and shape our sense-making, the five senses, right? You know what they are. And our thinking questions. So we ask different questions depending on that. So we're going to go beyond all that today, beyond all divisions, beyond all duality, to the chakra there we call the crown chakra. Gurudev Shikshabanaji taught me this for years and years, the chakra, right? So Sasrara, which means 1,000 rays, 1,000 petals, and you know it, right? You're sitting there on the lotus in your meditation in Buddhism and Jainism. So Sasrara, Sashara. So that's one of the terms that Gurudev taught me. And he taught me to go into the Sanskrit. He also cites the Bible, which is interesting. "Be still and know that I am God," he cites on page 74 of his book on the 7 energy centers. So he says, well, get into the stillness, not the ripples, not the big waves on the ocean or the lake that we talked about last time, but Nothing remains but the I am, the oneness of the life force. And that's the way Gurdjieff talks about it. So Siddhas, Siddhas, has to do with the souls. And we want those souls to reach perfection. I cite the mantra Om Ariham Nama, which means I am the worthiest energy which I am. And I bow down to the absolute energy which I am. That's on page 75 of his book. And I do not see separation when I'm in that. I see separation other times, but not there. And I go, Soham, I am that. Sohum, I am that. And so we go through into the seventh gate of energy. It's not really a gate, it's 1,000 rays, 1,000 leaves of the lotus that we sit on. And we stretch our vision beyond into the higher self, into the three S's, as I call them, the spirit, the soul, and the true self. And in true storytelling, we talk about it as reflection on that true self. So that's some things I wanted to leave you with. We're going to go into the Wayne Alderson story, and thank you, Uncle Nunzio, for taking us there and introducing us to all these wonderful Fortune 100, 200, 300 executives hanging out in Pittsburgh and there for Wayne Alderson. Value of the person, you know. So check it out. Next, I'm going to show you one of the videos I organized, and I hope you like it.
Just to share this incredible philosophy he discovered at Pittron Steel with, well, everyone else. Okay, so now we're going to connect Alderson's amazing real-world story to a really fascinating theory. There's this academic, David Boje, who put a name to the kind of higher-level thinking that Alderson just seemed to tap into naturally, and he calls it the W7 Beyond Wish. So what in the world is W7? Well, we all know the classic 6W questions, right? Who, what, when, where, why, and with whom. Boje says there's a seventh one, the wish. And no, this isn't like wishing on a star. It's about a perspective that comes from your higher self, from a whole new level of awareness that's way beyond our normal day-to-day thinking. And this really gets to the core of what the W7 perspective does. When you're looking at things from that level, all those divisions that create conflict, management versus labor, us versus them, they just kind of dissolve. You start to see them for what they are, totally artificial lines we draw in the sand. And to show just how universal this idea is, Boje connects it to all these ancient spiritual traditions. For instance, in Sanskrit, there's the Sahasrara, which you might know as the crown chakra. It's symbolized by a 1,000-petaled lotus, and it represents opening up to pure, unified consciousness. It's the exact same idea as the W7 perspective, just, using a different language from a different culture. And isn't that fascinating? This idea of a beyond perspective, it pops up in so many different belief systems. I mean, look at this. In Jainism, it's about finding your oneness. In some Christian traditions, it's about the divine seed that's inside you. With the chakras, it's the crown. And for Boje, it's the W7 wish stream. They're all different words, different paths, but they're all pointing to the exact same place. So what's the payoff? What are the real-world benefits here? Well, adopting this beyond perspective helps you break free from that rigid black and white thinking. That's exactly what Wayne Alderson did. He completely shattered the us versus them pattern. This way of seeing things lets you question your own emotional hangups, and get this, it helps you build trust way faster. The source even mentions a cool concept called vujade, which is like seeing something familiar as if for the very first time. Ultimately, it's all about tapping into that deep inner peace, or what some people might call your inner divinity. Which brings us to the most important part of all of this, really. How do you make this personal? How can you actually find this beyond perspective in your own life? This quote from Gurudev Sri Chitrabhanu really puts into perspective how high the stakes are. He says that when we refuse to relate to people beyond our own little tribe, whether that's family or nationality, we are bound to clash with other people. He's saying that's the root cause of so much friction in the world. And here's the final and maybe most powerful idea. Getting to this higher perspective, It's not some far-off goal you have to work towards for years. The potential to shift your awareness, to tap into that W7 beyond wish, it exists right here, right now, in this very moment. Like the quote says, our whole future is contained in the present moment. So, we'll leave you with this to think about. We've seen this one core idea, called a lot of different things, right? The crown chakra, oneness, the divine seed, the W7 wish stream. The concept seems to be universal, but the words we use for it are deeply personal. So the question for you is, what's your name for it? How do you put it? So I want to take you to a place you probably wouldn't expect to find a story about overcoming deep division. A steel foundry in Pennsylvania. Yeah, a place that was just simmering with conflict between management and the unions. But what happened there? Well, it was so wild, people started calling it a miracle. And it holds this incredible lesson for all of us on how to bridge divides that feel, completely impossible. Okay, so the story really revolves around this one guy, Wayne Alderson, and this event that got nicknamed the Miracle of Pittron. And to really get what happened, we've got to start with the book that tells the whole tale. The book's title is Stronger Than Steel, and honestly, what a perfect name. Because this whole story is about finding a force that's way more powerful than any industrial machine. It's about the strength we find when we actually connect with each other. So, before this miracle happened, Pittron Steel was, to put it mildly, a toxic mess. I mean, the official strategy from the top brass was literally divide and conquer. They were intentionally pitting management against the union, which, as you can imagine, created this constant, just bitter war inside the company. And right into the middle of this mess walks our main character, Wayne Alderson. And get this, he was a World War II vet who had a literal bullet dent in his forehead. So yeah, this guy had seen enough conflicts to last a lifetime. He just got fed up with the constant fighting and decided, you know what, I'm going to try something completely different, something radical. And what he did next was just so unconventional, Instead of more shouting matches, he just started listening. And I don't just mean nodding along, I mean he really listened. He went out of his way to hear what the workers and union leaders were so frustrated about, without just planning his next argument. He actually brought both sides together, management and the union, to meet in this room right underneath the fiery foundry. They all started calling it the chapel. And in there, he'd pray for guidance, and he even got them bonding over the Pittsburgh Steelers of all things. And the results? Oh, they were absolutely staggering. He called it Operation Turnaround, and it worked better than anyone could have dreamed. A huge, explosive strike that was about to happen totally diffused. Those awful toxic negotiations, they just stopped. And not only that, sales went through the roof, and worker motivation was at an all-time high. I mean, wow. But this is where the story takes a really sharp, shocking turn. You'd think headquarters would be throwing him a parade, right? I mean, record sales, happy workers, what's not to love? Instead, they fired him. Yeah, fired him. And this is where we really get to the heart of the story. Why on earth would a company fire a manager who was so successful? Well, the answer reveals this really powerful idea he had stumbled upon, a philosophy he'd eventually call value of the person. So really, what happened here? What was going through the heads of the executives back at headquarters? Why would you want to sabotage something that was so obviously working? Well, the reason is kind of simple, and frankly, it's pretty shocking. Headquarters had told him point blank, do not cooperate with the union. They were so stuck in their old divide and conquer strategy that they'd literally rather see the company fail than succeed by doing things a different way. But Wayne Alderson, he didn't just walk away defeated, not at all. He turned getting fired into a brand new mission. He actually founded an organization called Value of the Person just to share this incredible